You see this, this, and this. It's been a long day. Let me explain. I ordered all these parts in the last video. I started testing all the parts to make sure everything is working, and, well, I didn't make it that far, honestly. After trying different CPUs, motherboards, and graphics cards, nothing. I mean, nothing. I'm gonna get these motherboards to post. Are all the CPUs bad, or is it all the motherboards? Let's hold off on that mess for a second. If you remember this email I got in the last video, I met up with the guy so he can drop off the PC to me. The specs of the PC are a Ryzen 5 5500 with the stock cooler, a new Asus B550M Wi-Fi motherboard. He's downsizing from an ATX board, 2x8GB sticks of RAM, a new RTX 4070 Super, which is a beast of a card, a Red Dragon 850W power supply fully modular, all inside the new Johnsbow Z20 Micro ATX case. He does plan on upgrading the CPU to a 5700X 3D, but he just wants to make sure this PC boots up since he could not get it to power on. The first things I wanted to check was the front cable connections because I was told that nothing on the PC is powering on, which by the looks of it, the connections were good. All other connections like the 24 pin and the CPU pin also looks good. Next step is to wire everything up temporary and see if it doesn't turn on like it doesn't for the owner. If you look to the right of the case, you can see the orange light of the motherboard, which means it's getting power. And nothing. Just nothing. Before I take this completely out of the case, I did try to take all the connections from the case side of the motherboard and try and jump the two pins to see if maybe the power button is messed up. Still nothing. So now I have no choice but to take this completely out of the case. I even tested the power supply just in case something funky was going on with it, and it also tested out fine. Only thing left is to check the actual CPU and check the pins. Quick tip when taking a AM4 CPU out, I suggest letting the PC run for at least 10 minutes to heat up the paste, so that way this doesn't happen. Of course, I had no choice since I could not get the PC to boot up, but luckily the pins aren't bent. From the look of it, I don't think this was installed correctly, considering how quickly the CPU came out with the cooler. So let's put this back together and see if I can get it to boot up. And here's the moment of truth. Yeah, there we go. Now, the better question is, will it post? Just gonna check to see if the CPU is heating up. And there it is, a post. Now let me finish this build up so I can get this back to the customer. I just want to say I do get some random drop-off PCs to fix for people around my local area. I'm just curious if this is also something you guys would be interested in from time to time. The recordings may not be the best since I'm obviously trying to get these PCs in and out for the customers, but I was able to get this back to him within a few hours and got this really nice review from him. Now, after all that, back to this troubleshooting mess. After some time, not only did I receive 2 bad motherboards, but a third one. What are the odds? I have ordered a few more motherboards anyway, since I have a few more custom orders come in from my website. I'm still waiting on those parts, so let's focus on this PC flip. For the parts list, I got this Ryzen 5 5600, a 2x8GB kit of TimeTech Pinnacle conduit, a 1TB Kelvin Kraz M.2 drive. I was planning on going with a stock cooler since I have so many lying around, but for $20-ish, I went with the Domorite Assassin King Tower Cooler, which looks way better anyway. To power up this build is my go-to 650W PVA Galaxy power supply, all inside one of my favorite cases, the PVA Phenon, which I've made some really cool themes with this build. Oh, and I almost forgot, the graphics card. I got a really good deal on a RTX 2060 Super on eBay, and now finally after this huge headache, let's take a look at this final build. this is one of the 3 builds complete. I have 2 other ones that I have to finish up. As I was working on build number 2, I got 2 emails from my website for some custom builds. They're both in my local area. One is an $800 budget and the other is a $2,000 budget with some custom vinyl work, which are my favorite builds to do. Since I have all the parts for the $800 PC, let's go over the parts list and get this PC built. For the CPU, I went with a Ryzen 5 5500. The motherboard is a ASRock A520M Phantom Gaming 4. For the RAM, I went with the 2x8GB kit of Timetech Pinnacle conduit. For storage is a 1TB Kelvin Kraz M.2 drive. For the PC case, I went with the DIY PC N1. When it comes to the RAM, storage, cooler, and power supply, I usually buy these in small bulks, so that's why they're usually all the same. I usually go with what brand is cheaper at the time. It just makes buying parts easier. The graphics card I went with, I was able to get this white RTX 3060. You can never go wrong with a white graphics card and an all-white build. I have to get this PC shipped out soon, so let's check out the final product. As I was packing up this PC to get shipped out, I got a message from the customer on the PC that I just gave back from troubleshooting. It's been about a week now, but if you remember in the beginning of the video, he planned on upgrading his 5500 to a 5700X 3D. Well, I guess it didn't go well and he ended up bending some pins. He already ordered another 5700X 3D and a new cooler for it. So before I can see if I can save this 5700X 3D, let's get this cooler swapped out. He said he tried to swap back his 5500 and it wouldn't turn on, so I can't turn on the PC to let it heat up the thermal paste so I can have a better chance of the CPU not getting stuck like the last time. But I figured it would. After messing around with the stuck CPU, I noticed the lever on the socket is bent. It's supposed to go inside a plastic piece for it to keep the CPU locked in. It does lock the CPU in, and I'm thinking with the pressure of the CPU cooler, it will keep it in place. So let's swap out this new cooler and see if I can get it to post. And there's a post. Thumbs up in the comments for getting this PC back up and running. Now let's get to fixing the CPU. Let's get it under my super expensive microscope. First thing is to get this thermal paste all cleaned up. I ran out of my liquid isopropyl alcohol, so I'm going to use my wipes and apply it to a toothbrush to clean all the paste off. You really just want to give it a nice brush to get all the paste off. The bristles aren't tough enough to bend any of the pins. Of course, with just a light stroke through the pins. Now that it's all cleaned up, let's see if we can fix these pins. I use a razor knife and of course with some light pressure, just bend the pins slowly to get them straight. The middle area of the CPU is pretty tough. Just take your time. To be honest, this took me some time to get them all lined up. Now, a final inspection to see if I can get this to go inside a socket. Luckily, I have all these dead motherboards from earlier to test it out. There we go, right in there. Now let's really test this out and see if we can get this to post. Just checking to see if the CPU is getting hot. Oh, I think. Yep, there it is. Nice. 5700X 3D. Alright, well, this was definitely a roller coaster, but I got through it. And if you made it this far, you're awesome. Definitely stick around for the next build.